Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. As the Trump administration sends more aircraft and ships towards Venezuela, we've just gotten a frightening reminder of the dangers to innocent people nearby.
There's new audio in this morning after a crazy near mid-air collision. A JetBlue flight leaving the small Caribbean nation of Curacao en route to New York had to abruptly stop its ascent to avoid colliding with a U.S. Air Force plane. The JetBlue pilot spoke to air traffic control basically as this played out.
We almost had a mid-air collision up here. Traffic passed directly in front of us within 5 miles of us, maybe 2-3 miles, but it was an air-to-air refueler from the United States Air Force. They don't have their transponder turned on. It's outrageous. We had to stop our climb and actually descend to avoid hitting them.
There were 200 people on board that JetBlue airliner. The Pentagon confirms the U.S. military aircraft was a KC-46 refueling tanker. By all accounts, the refueler was not using a GPS transponder that would have identified its presence and location. Thankfully, the evasive actions taken by the pilot for JetBlue avoided a catastrophe. Still, you can understand why the JetBlue pilot was infuriated and called the incident outrageous. Members of Congress are also increasingly disturbed by the Trump administration's military buildup and potential war with Venezuela. Several Republicans have now joined Democrats to introduce legislation that would force all congressional lawmakers to vote on whether they approve or disapprove of the Trump military action.
The framers understood a simple truth. To the extent that war-making power devolves to one person, liberty dissolves. If the president believes military action against Venezuela is justified and needed, he should make the case and Congress should vote before American lives and treasure are spent on regime change in South America. Let's be honest about likely outcomes. Do we truly believe that Nicolas Maduro will be replaced by a modern-day George Washington? How did that work out? In Cuba, Libya, Iraq, or Syria? Previous presidents told us to go to war over WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, that did not exist. Now it's the same playbook, except we're told that drugs are the WMDs. If it were about drugs, we'd bomb Mexico or China or Colombia, and the president would not have pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is about oil and regime change.
Venezuela is sitting on the largest deposit of oil in the world, and Juan Hernandez is the former Honduran president that Donald Trump recently pardoned. Hernandez had been convicted and jailed for flooding the United States with over 400 tons of cocaine. The Trump military actions near Venezuela have gotten increased attention over the last several months because of those U.S. attacks on alleged drug boats. As we learned recently, the very first Trump administration attack on September the 2nd involved follow-up strikes that killed 2 men who survived the first missile and had been clinging to the overturned burning hull. Lawmakers in both parties have now seen the Pentagon's close-up videos of the follow-up attacks and described the video images as graphic and horrifying. Several lawmakers point out that killing men who are shipwrecked is a war crime, or if there's no war, it amounts to murder. Donald Trump has insisted he is fine with the follow-up video being released, but his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, objects.
In keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course we're not going to release a top-secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public. HASC and SASC and appropriate committees will see it, but not the general public.
HASC and SASC are the House Armed Services Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee, but the public, says Hegseth, should not get the video because it's classified. Well, soon after Hegseth's claims, his own military commanders undercut him. Headline, military commanders told lawmakers second strike video can be released, contradicting Hegseth's claim. Quote, Rep. Jason Crow asked U.S. military commanders during today's classified briefing if there was any reason they could not release full video from the September 2nd boat strike. No, was their response, per Crow, who said lawmakers were told the video could easily be prepared for public release. In other words, Pete Hegseth is lying. He doesn't want the video released not because it's classified, but because it would show graphically the U.S. military committing crimes. The Trump administration, though, does have its defenders on Capitol Hill, including Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina.
Why not release this video to the?
I think it should be.
Senator Graham, is it a mistake? Is it a mistake?
I think the video should be given to everybody in Congress.
Note that Graham said everybody in Congress, not the public.
You know, the least of my concerns is this friggin' video. Release it, make your own decisions. This is lawful. I have every confidence that what they're doing is no different than what Bush did.
Comparisons to what Bush did may not help Graham, because if he's referring to Bush 43, George W. Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney took the United States to war in Iraq based on faulty claims about weapons of mass destruction. And there were plenty of lawmakers in both parties who said that some of the tactics of the U.S. military were illegal. If Graham is talking about Bush 41 and, say, the invasion of Panama, well, that could be argued as similar to Venezuela in terms of the idea of regime change in the Caribbean, but Bush 41 didn't blow up Panamanian boats or illegally seize Panamanian oil tankers. And U.S. lawmakers in both parties say the classified briefings they've received recently from the Trump administration about the Trump actions against Venezuela have raised more questions and concerns.
Bigger picture here, and that has really developed over the last 24 hours, is the Trump administration really speaking out of both sides of their mouth on what we're actually doing with these strikes and what their plan is with Venezuela. And for the president today and Stephen Miller to talk very openly about how Venezuela stole our oil, I guess back in 1976, 49 years ago, and that there needs to be, that Maduro needs to go, in the words of the chief of staff to the president. I just think the bigger story here is what is the battle rhythm leading up to potentially more military action on Venezuela, and is that something the country, after Iraq and Afghanistan, that we're interested in right now?
And if the United States does go to war against Venezuela, is it to try and stop the flow of drugs, or because Donald Trump simply wants regime change?
Literally, as Mr. Rubio and Secretary Hegseth are telling us that the only thing they're doing is going after these boats because they're carrying drugs, at the same time we have the chief of staff to the president captured in the Vanity Fair article talking about, well, the whole point is just to get Maduro out, right? Yeah. It's regime change. So, get your story straight before you come and brief the Senate. And again, it's the leadership I have concerns about, not the service members.
The American public also has concerns about the U.S. civilian leadership. Polls show a majority of Americans do not support a war with Venezuela. Those numbers may explain why Donald Trump has so far been unwilling to attack Venezuela directly or to put U.S. service members in harm's way. At the moment, it seems that Trump is trying to frighten the Venezuelan regime and get Maduro to leave voluntarily. But in the meantime, the buildup of U.S. forces is itself a danger. And whether you call a mid-air collision collateral damage or a horrific accident, the Trump administration narrowly avoided that mess in recent days, and it underscores that even the ongoing military operations near Venezuela have the potential to get a lot of innocent people killed. By the way, on U.S. domestic issues, Fox Business News just admitted that the Trump administration is sinking the U.S. labor market.
4.6 is probably the number moving the needle right now.
This is the highest unemployment since September of 2021. Carol, you've got the October numbers as well.
We got October non-farm payrolls data. We saw a loss of 105,000 jobs non-farm for the month of October.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular was from Raymond, who wrote, "'Tis the season for America to suck. Thank you, felon Trump." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about the growing controversy over Trump military actions near Venezuela. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.